Let's bring him in, my good friend Dr. Joe Congini, Sports Medicine Center at Akron Children's Hospital. Joe's been part of this show for over 25 years, kind enough to take time out of his day to join us on Sports Medicine. And Dr. Joe, where are you starting this week for us?
Hey, Ray, two things came up last week, actually, shortly after we had our show last week, and I've been meaning to comment on them. I got a call. Sometimes we get the heads up from the media. Some media people were calling it to our office to see what our thoughts were about this possible vote in California to ban youth football, taking the step to block kids less than 12 years of age from playing football in the state of California, and the legislators were looking at that. Three other states, I guess, had looked at a proposal within the last year, but all of them were voted down. And as it turned out, by the end of last week, that measure was vetoed in California. My only concern about that, Ray, it kind of came out of left field. There's no new research that's been out in the last 4 to 6 years to say why they would be looking at that again. Certainly, what a lot of people have been mentioning is the vote on this, the discussion about this, might have to do more with politics than with science or medicine, and I really think these kinds of decisions should be left to science and medicine, and so I think a good discussion is reasonable to be had with science and medicine people. But anyway, the point of the matter is it looks like that was voted down in California. It was actually vetoed in California, and that there isn't going to be anything on the books, I don't think, again in 2024 about that. What's good news is, with some things that's gone on with football in the last decade, is there has been a real surge of flag football. And so flag football's really gone up. A lot of young girls playing flag football and stuff too. And so that's something that we can look for. But I would really look for more science to help make those kinds of decisions. And I'm glad that people are trying to keep the politics out of it.
You know, the one thing in regards to that, Joe, and I've talked to a number of people about this issue in different states and different coaches and such, and, it's kind of divided. Some of them say, yeah, they would applaud that, but the others are saying, boy, at those infant stages, you're starting then to teach these kids how to properly tackle at the age of 14, 15, 16, and then you get into injuries because of the poor way of tackling where they had been trained for 3 or 4 years before that. So there's two sides of this story pertaining to football.
Yeah, there really is. There's no doubt about it. And they used the discussion of, CTE, the brain injury, the chronic traumatic encephalopathy. But those studies from Boston University really showed people that had long-term brain injuries over a long period of time, like into the professional ranks, were the vast majority of those. So you're exactly right. No doubt about it. There's a lot to teach the game and teach the fundamentals. So that was one thing that came up last week. Also, the suspension of Tristan Thompson. We hadn't heard as much in the NBA about suspensions as much anymore. So this, again, a little bit came out of left field, I think. 25-game suspension without pay for the first offense, 55 games for a second offense. He was caught with two different substances. One is actually a hormone-like agent, and the other, growth hormone, human growth hormone agent. The other stimulates the pituitary gland in the brain to secrete muscle enhancers and PEDs. And so two different drugs that he was caught with in random drug testing. And that's where the NBA is right now. They randomly test. They don't tell you they're testing. They can test up to 4 times a season. But we haven't seen the numbers of people as we once did in years gone by. One of the reasons for that, big obvious reason, is there's no more testing for marijuana. For cannabis is not tested for after 2021, and that used to be something that was tested for quite a bit. But we have to admit that it must be tempting for people late in their career to want to get a little bit of a boost and get ahead of the game, especially when they know that there's substances out there that could help them a little bit. But on the other hand, then, if you get caught with something like this, you're going to lose a significant amount of salary, too. So, Tristan Thompson will be out until mid-March, I think, and by then the Cavs should be in a playoff run. They certainly are playing great basketball right now.
Yeah, Joe, there's so much from sport to sport on what is illegal and what isn't, but the bottom line still, these growth hormones are still illegal in all sports.
That's right. Human growth hormone is illegal in all sports, and a lot of the performance enhancing drugs that we've used through the years, right, have worked the way that one of these substances that Tristan worked is they stimulate the pituitary gland in the brain to make the hormone and increase your own production in your own body of that human growth hormone, and that was one of the two drugs that he was caught with in doping.
All right, Joe. As always, my friend, great insight into the world of sports medicine. We'll do it again next week.
Okay, sounds great. Have a great week, Ray.
You too, Joe. Dr. Joe Congini, Sports Medicine Center, Akron Children's Hospital, kind enough to join us each Wednesday morning